environment. What are you doing for temperature, humidity, VPD? Talk to us about that.
In veg, I like to keep, my temperatures in the low 80s and keep my humidity in the mid 70s. Keep that VPDs, somewhere between zero point 0.8 and zero point 0.9. And I seem to have great success. Everything's always happy and healthy in the veg. And once I get into flower, the first couple of weeks, I treat it almost similarly to veg. Drop that humidity maybe a little bit, but it can remain for the first 2 weeks almost just like I have it in veg. Then I'll start, reducing the humidity as I get on through flower and try to drop the heat. I mean, but it's a struggle right here in Phoenix right now because we have days where it's 118 degrees outside, and I have my garage finished out with the mini split, but when it's 118 degrees, it struggles to keep it icy like I would really want it in there. So there's been some days on the really hot days where I actually have to open up my tent and leave the doors open just so that the temperature doesn't get too high in there, which causes my humidity to, of course, spike way down low. I mean, there's times where my VPD is sitting 2 point something just because I can't close the door to my tent because it'll get too hot. But when I leave the door open to my tent, it lets all the humidity out. So it's definitely a little more challenging in the summertime dealing with these extreme temperatures. But in the wintertime, yeah, it's definitely a lot easier for me to go ahead and drop those temps late flower and try to keep that VPD dialed in. But, when your temps are 80, 81 degrees sometimes in the summertime in my flower, I know that's less than ideal. I don't feel comfortable raising my humidity up to the level to keep my VPD in the ideal range. I just start fearing things like bud rot and mold and those type of things once you start getting humidity into your environment late in flower. So yeah, it's not always ideal, but sometimes you just got to work with what you got.
I hear you. I'm in a similar climate to you, and I battled a 100+ degree temperature June, July, August, 3 months out of the year where it's 100, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And it definitely makes it a lot more difficult to cool, even when you're growing indoors, right? The electricity cost goes up due to the cooling. It can go off significantly depending on what you're using for cooling, but it's certainly a battle. And when you get those higher temps and stuff like that, it can impact bud structure in a negative way. When we start talking about bag appeal and stuff like that, at least in my experience. Now, you mentioned you like to drop the temp at the end of flowering if possible. We hear that a lot of people doing that these days in order to conserve those terpenes. When is the end of flowering for you? Are you talking the last 2 weeks, the last 3 weeks, or what?
I would say, the last 2, 3 weeks, as you start, like for me, once you're starting to see that fade start to come in and, you can tell when the plant's finishing up. I know there's a lot of talk these days about flushing as bro science and that nobody needs to flush anymore, but I was taught to flush when I started. I still flush the final week. So yeah, I'm just looking at the fade out on these plants and I'll be able to tell, when they get to the spot that I'm really looking for.
And then what do you like to drop the temp down to? I know you mentioned you're in the low 80s for most of the grow. I'm assuming you're going from low 80s to what, high 70s, or are you going even lower than that?
I mean, in the wintertime, when I'm able to, yeah, I like to get it down into the 60s even with lights on. It's kind of hard just because I've added the under canopy lighting now. So between the under canopy lighting and then the maximum lighting up top I have, it definitely generates a lot of heat in there. So I would say probably 68 is as low as I'm able to really get it in there with the added heat that I get from all the lighting.
This clip is brought to you by VivoSun. Use discount code MrGrow15 to save on any of their gardening products. Go to the full episode by clicking the outro card here, or click the link in the description section below. Catch you in the next video.